first round that we can. Obviously, there are a couple play-in games. We might put a pin in those for now, but we are going to cover every game in which we know the matchup using Outlier, using killersports.com. Thank you for all of those who are returning to the show, who are just watching us. Thank you to all those that are new to Butt Fumble Sports, a sports content company created by a sports fan for you real sports fans at home. Make sure you guys hit that follow button. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to go through every game of the NCAA bracket, and that way you guys have the data, the trends, the analytics, everything that you guys need to cash in on the first round of the tournament. Again, we're going to go through every game, every matchup, everything involving the first round of the NCAA tournament. Great to have you guys back with us. Let's put our bracket up on the board for everybody out there. In case any of you guys are missing part of it, let's make sure we can show it. We're going to cover all of the games in this first round there. You see, we're going to start in the East. East bracket starts with UConn and Stetson. How we're going to go about this is we are going to pull up both college basketball on Outlier to make sure we're getting all the betting data that we need for it. Additionally, we are also going to use killersports.com. Killersports.com is a website that's free that allows us to look up all the trends and data and matchups that we need to make sure that we're getting really zoned in on the variables that lead to good sports bets, as long as it works. There we go. Okay, we're going to pull up a couple of different trends when it comes to these teams. First, since we know UConn's going to be our first example, what we'll say is we want to know how they've done all season as a favorite. That's going to be important to us. How they've played on a neutral site is going to be the next one that we focus on. We'll duplicate that. How have they done so far over the last few seasons on a neutral site? That's something I have looked at over the last week. Kind of a nice thing to be able to look at. Only over maybe the last 2 seasons. You don't want to go too far back, but how has a program done at a neutral site? Next one that we're going to look at is how they've done when they've had a certain line. How have they done this season when they've had a line between, for example, since we're using Connecticut right now, minus 26.5. So like, let's say minus 28 and a line that's like over 20. So when they've been at least a 20-point favorite, really, how has UConn done? Have they not played this season under a line of that circumstance so far? 26.5. Got to make sure I'm doing this right. So greater than, less than. Okay, so UConn 5-0 when they've been in this situation. The over's gone 5-0. Anyways, I'm just starting to put together just the early bits of the early searches that we're going to do. We're going to go through every game of the NCAA tournament for those that are just joining us. We are going to go through every game to make sure we're looking at every trend appropriately to cash in on every game of the first round. Stetson, S-T-E-T. Oh, that's why. Okay. And I want to look at how each team's done with a certain total. So when the total has been between 140 and 145 for UConn and for Stetson. Wow, we've got some good trends already that I'm spotting. So I'm excited about what we're going to do over the next hour plus. By the way, it's going to take longer than that because we're going to go through every game of the first round. So if you're joining us on YouTube, if you're joining us on Twitch or Kick, we got a lot going on. It's going to be a long show. So make sure you guys hit the follow button. Make sure you're with us the whole time. Should be a lot of fun. Okay. And are there any other trends I want to look at? I kind of want to look at rest. I'd be kind of interested by that. So when there's a heavy rest advantage, That's the other thing I might be willing to kind of look at. So we'll do that as well. Interesting. Okay, so those are the trends. Let's start by looking at UConn. Michael, will you post all of the college basketball picks? Yes, we will. We are going to build the bracket right now. So for all of those watching on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, you can see the bracket live on my screen right now. We're going to go through every game. I will not just pick who I think is going to win. Obviously, that's a money line pick. We will then also give out the total play as well as the spread play that we would go with for that game. We start in the East. We're going to start UConn and Stetson. This game tips off at 2:45 on the 22nd. Again, really quick, I'm just going to go over to Outlier to show you guys. Oh, I got to go over the 22nd. That's on Friday. So UConn, Stetson, UConn 26.5 point favorite, over 145.5. So far, money pretty split on the money line, interestingly enough, probably because Stetson's getting such good odds. Stetson is getting a lot of early tickets to cover the spread. 92% of the tickets are on the Stetson Hatters. Yeah, one of the great mascot names in all of college sports, the Stetson Hatters, to cover the spread. As for the over's getting a lot of love from the public. 96% of the tickets so far are on the over. Let's look at some trends. Again, we can't look at how these two teams have done against each other head to head, but we can look at certain variables. How has UConn done as a favorite so far this year? They have gone 29-2 as a favorite over the course of the season, 20-11 against the spread. The over-under has gone 15-16. The under has hit very consistently over the last few weeks, but again, that was against Big East competition, so we don't want to take too much from that. How about when we look at Stetson as an underdog? Stetson as an underdog so far this year. They've gone just 7-8 straight up, 9-6 against the spread. The under's been a better play. Under's gone 9-6, and over the last few weeks, the under's been a much better play as well. Now, on a neutral site, UConn has played 17 games on a neutral site over the last few seasons. If we look since the start of 2022, again, 17 games, they've gone 16-1 straight up, 16-1 against the spread. The only game that they lost or failed to cover on a neutral site was against Marquette back in March of 2023. So literally almost a full year ago, more than a full year ago. The under was a slightly better play when UConn's been on a neutral site. The under's gone 3-0 in the last few games they played on a neutral site. How about, let's look at Stetson. How has Stetson done on a neutral site? Just 5 games over the last few years. They've gone 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. Now, we talked about this crazy spread here, 26.5 points. UConn has actually been a favorite of over 20 points 4 times this year. They've gone 4-0. The over has also gone 4-0 in those games. UConn is averaging 90 points in games where they have a spread between 20 and a 28 point spread. Stetson, when they're an underdog of this size, it's only happened once so far this season. It was against Cincinnati earlier in the year. They lost. They covered the spread, and the over hit. They actually scored 75 points in that game. Now, looking at how the Stetson Hatters have done when it comes to the total of around 144, right now it's at 144.5. When they've had a line total between 140 and 145, they've gone 3-1 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. Over-under has split at 2-2. Those games, though, against Florida Gulf Coast, twice, not really opponents that are on the level of UConn. As for UConn, when they've had a total between 140 and 145, waiting for it to load up. Sometimes you do get this. I can't blame killersports.com. We have like 7 tabs open right now, so can't blame them. Are you kidding me? Really appreciate you. Hope you guys are loving the conversation. We're going to go through every game. It may take us 3 hours. I don't care. I haven't built a bracket yet because I'm going to go through every game, looking at the data and the trends. I didn't want to fill out a bracket without going through the normal process that we go through. So because of that, we're going to be doing a lot of college basketball talk over the next few hours. So you can stay for all of it. You can just stay for some of it. Hopefully killersports.com loads, though, because if it doesn't load, I'm going to be a cranky butt fumble sports, I'll tell you that. As for the moment, we can put in our pick right now. We could say we're taking UConn on the money line. UConn on the money line is the first thing that we will take. Not surprised there. I am going to kind of separate this out, and I'm going to start putting out picks that are purely based on college basketball. I do like UConn on the money line. Stetson Hatters, 26.5 points. It's a big spread. A lot of disrespect there. So Connecticut, when they've had a total between 140 and 145, they have gone 9-1 so far this season, 7-3 against the spread. Over's been a slightly better play. Personally, I'm not going to bet the spread. I feel like the Hatters could cover 26.5, but I'm just not there. Just not about it. That said, I kind of like the over. I'm not going to bet it. There's just something, I feel like UConn's going to put up 80 points. So if UConn puts up 80 points, it really is just a question of how many points they give up. I kind of like them giving up 65. That's why I kind of like the spread cover here. But I think UConn could put up a ton of points on its own. The only bet I'm going to make, though, at least to start, I'm going to make a wimpy one. It will be UConn on the money line. It's a parlay play, but that's where I start at least. I just feel like that's the best place to start. I'm not going to get too crazy right out of the bat, but UConn on the money line, and that's the first pick in our bracket. Let's move on to the next game in the bracket, and that is going to be FAU against Northwestern. I'm kind of pumped for this game. If I'm being honest, I actually think this is a really entertaining game. FAU, Northwestern. This is the first game to tip off on Friday. Northwestern Wildcats are 21-11 on the season. Florida Atlantic Owls are 25-8. Spread right now, Florida Atlantic is a 2.5-point favorite. 77% of the money right now is on Northwestern to win. So while it's 50-50 split on public tickets, Northwestern's getting more money. I kind of like where that is. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's go through some of the trends right now. Now, for all those asking about where are we doing our research, we use Outlier and killersports.com. I'm going to do a lot of my research on killersports.com throughout the course of the show. You guys could follow along with me. You guys could actually do this work on your own. I'm just doing it live on the air, so you guys don't have to if you don't want to. So Northwestern, let's look at how they've done as an underdog this year. Northwestern as an underdog. Northwestern's been an underdog 13 times. They've gone 5-8 straight up. They've gone 8-5 against the spread. As an underdog, they've been an underdog in 2, 4, 6. In 6 of their last 7 games as an underdog, they have covered the spread. The under's been a pretty good play as well in their last few games as an underdog. Let's look over at Florida Atlantic. How have they been as a favorite? Florida Atlantic is a favorite so far this season. They've gone 23-6 straight up. However, 14-15 against the spread. They did much better, obviously, in their tournament covering the spread. But prior to that, they have been struggling for the last few months at covering the spread as a favorite. Over's been a really good play for them over the last week. Again, that's conference tournament play, so I'm not going to put too much stock into that. Let's take a look now. This spread right now is 2.5. How has Florida Atlantic been? Let's first look at how they've been on neutral sites. I just always love to check that. Over the last few years, they've been very good on neutral sites. Again, the over has been a hot play there. Northwestern at a neutral site. 4-5 straight up, 6-3 against the spread. The under's been, again, a very strong play for Northwestern last few years, this season and the last few years on a neutral site. Let's take a look at Florida Atlantic when they've had a spread of 2.5 points. So let's say Florida Atlantic between 2 and let's say 4 points when they've had a spread between that. Come on. Florida Atlantic should be 2.5. Florida Atlantic, 2.5 points. Okay, there it is. So Florida Atlantic's actually played only 3 games so far this season with a spread between 2 and 4 points. One of those was to a Big Ten opponent, Illinois. That was a game they lost and they failed to cover. Interesting there. Let's look at Northwestern now. When Northwestern has had a spread between 2 and 4 points. Yeah. So when Northwestern's been an underdog between 2 and 4 points, they've gone 2-2 straight up, beat Indiana on the road, won at home to Michigan State, but they also have a loss to Mississippi State and Nebraska. Over's gone 3-1 in those games. They've been averaging around 72 points in those games. Florida Atlantic's averaging around 86 points in those games. Interesting. I'm going to throw out the Northwestern neutral site data. That's not as valuable to me. Florida Atlantic seems to consistently score around 80. Feels like Northwestern scores consistently around 72. The total for this game is set at over 141.5. I'm going to take the over on that one. That's a play I automatically like. Let me put that one on the board. Northwestern, Florida Atlantic, over 141.5. I love that. That seems like a play that's worth making. That opened at 140.5. Has climbed to 141.5. That's going to keep going up. Northwestern and Florida Atlantic's a tricky one for me. In part because I like Northwestern, but the trends, they don't favor it as much as I would have liked. Northwestern's losses on neutral sites. Wisconsin, Mississippi State, UCLA, Penn State, Auburn. Let's take a look at the totals. Total is set at 140. Let's take a look at Northwestern. When the total's been between 140 and 145, the over's gone 6-2 for Northwestern, so we like that. We certainly like the over. I like Northwestern to cover. I'm going to take Northwestern on a cover play as well. Northwestern, like plus 5.5, plus 6.5, if you can get it. You're going to buy points on that. I should start putting these bets in. Northwestern, let's say plus 5.5. Yeah, I'd take it. I'd also take the over. Over 138.5 feels like a great play. I'm taking that. As for who's advancing, I want to say Northwestern. There's one more trend I want to look at, actually. Appreciate you guys watching the show. I know I'm just going through stats and research right now. I hope you guys are getting something out of it. And even if you're not, I hope you're getting entertained by me trying to get something out of it. Let's take a look at how Northwestern has done against opponents. One's team. And it's like WP. It's greater than 0.500. I got to remember how to do this. Nah, I'm screwing up now. I won't waste time on it. Okay. I gotta pick a winner in this one. Let's go. Before I do, let's look at Florida Atlantic just on that point total. Florida Atlantic. It's just the second game, and already I'm grinding. I love the over. We love the over. Let me repeat that. We love the over. Let's look at this. After Florida Atlantic has lost a game this year, I'm just looking for any trend that I can find that just gives me a better sense of it. Florida Atlantic's gone 5-0 after a loss. How has Northwestern done after a loss? 8-2. Covered the spread 4 times. Well, we already said we like them covering the spread. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games on the road after a loss. I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic. I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic to win. Part of me really wants to take Northwestern. I understand why my heart's telling me to take Northwestern, but just based on the data, Florida Atlantic scores a lot of points. And I think Northwestern's a decent offense. They can get to 70 points, but if this game is about who gets to 75 points, who's more likely to get to 75 points, I think Florida Atlantic's the better play. So, we've gone through the first 2 games of the East. It's going to take a while for us to go through everyone. I don't care. I'll be here all night if I have to. But we like UConn in the first game over Stetson. We like Florida Atlantic to win and advance against Northwestern. However, for those watching, I do like UConn on the money line. I like Florida Atlantic and Northwestern to hit the over, and I like Northwestern to cover. ATR, man, Florida Atlantic has some injury stuff. That's Florida. They had a backcourt injury. I don't know. It is important information. I definitely don't want to say it's not, but Florida Atlantic Owls. Florida Atlantic. They just have one player who's out, Carroll. Carroll's the only player that's out. Arm injury. That's the only one I'm seeing so far. So I'm going to stick with it for the moment. I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic to win. So we've gone through the first 2 games. Let's go through the next one. San Diego State, UAB, everybody. San Diego State and UAB. Okay. Let's take a look as the next game to look at. UAB is a 7.5 point underdog on this one. Let's look at how UAB's done as an underdog this year. UAB as an underdog. They've been an underdog 13 times. They've gone 8-5 straight up. They've gone 11-2 against the spread. Love to see that. How about San Diego State as a favorite? No, it's not it. San Diego State's gone 20-4 as a favorite this year, but 11-13 against the spread, and they failed to cover the spread in 5 of their last 6 games as a favorite. So already, if you like San Diego State, that's fine, but there actually may be some value on taking UAB as an underdog on this one. Let's take a quick look at how UAB has done at neutral sites. They've gone 4-0 in their last 4 of games. They've covered in their last 5 neutral site games. Like to see that. On the other side, San Diego State, neutral site games. They've gone 13-5 straight up, but again, have failed to cover the spread pretty consistently. Nothing so far about the total is really catching my attention. Let's take a look at how San Diego State has done as a favorite of between 5 and let's say 8 points. Because the point right now it's set at 6.5, but let's give some room there. So when they've been a favorite, San Diego State is a favorite of 5.5, between 5 and 8 points. They've actually won 5 of their last 6 games in that situation, covered 4 of their last 6. They did fail to obviously win and cover against Boise a couple weeks ago. They've gone 4-2 towards the over in that situation. Let's flip it around now. Let's look at how UAB has done when they've been an underdog by between 5 and 8 points. UAB 4-3 straight up at 6-1 against the spread. Want to look at the total, and then I'll be ready to make my first pick on this game. When the total is between 135 and 140, how is UAB done? UAB's gone 2-1 straight up, 2-1 against the spread, just 1-2 with the under hitting more commonly, just by 1 game though. San Diego State, when the total's between 135 and 140, 10-3 straight up, 6-7 against the spread. Okay, this is where I'm coming out on this one. I like San Diego State to advance. I'm going to be chalky, at least early on. I like San Diego State on the money line. That's a play I'm willing to go with, San Diego State on the money line. But I would take UAB to cover. I think UAB as a cover play is actually a good one here. How's the public betting this one? 73% of the tickets are on San Diego State to win. 69% of the tickets are on UAB to cover. 60% of the money is on UAB to cover. The over is getting a lot more action, both by the public and by the money. So over getting a lot more love. Not surprised by that. But I do like I do like UAB to cover. So UAB, I would take UAB at like a plus. I'd take it at plus 10.5. I don't think it's going to be a double-digit game, so that's where I would take that one. UAB plus 10.5, maybe plus 9.5. You want to play it safe, but I do have San Diego State advancing. So the first 3 games, we have UConn advancing, FAU advancing, and San Diego State advancing. Final game of this top part of the bracket, we've got a lot to go through, is going to be Auburn and Yale. Auburn and Yale is the next one. Let's take a look at it. Auburn and Yale. Right now, Auburn is a 12.5 point favorite. When it comes to how the public's betting this game, 89% of the tickets are on Auburn. 61% of the tickets are on Auburn to cover the spread, but 83% of the money is on Yale to cover the spread. So Yale's getting a lot of love. Keep your eye on that. The over is getting a lot of action in terms of public tickets. Let's take a look at Auburn as a favorite so far this year. When Auburn's been a favorite, they've gone 27-4 straight up, 22-9 against the spread. They have failed to cover the spread in 2 of their last 4 games. Only time this season that's happened since early November. Last time it happened was November 7th and 10th. So earlier in the season and late in the season, that's where you've actually seen the Auburn Tigers fail to cover the spread somewhat consistently. Under's gone 3-0 over the last few games. Obviously, that was in the SEC tournament. Something to keep note of. Let's say how Yale has done as an underdog this year. Yale with that buzzer beater against Brown. Yale as an underdog has gone 3-5 straight up, 5-3 against the spread. The under has gone 6-2. So right now the under, kind of an interesting play to me. Auburn on neutral sites over the last few years, 10-4 straight up. The under has gone 4-0 over the last few, but we mentioned again, that's the SEC tournament that's contributing to that. If I actually date that back to even earlier this year, the under's been a very good play for Auburn at neutral sites. How about Yale? When they've been at a neutral site so far, they've gone 7-2 straight up, actually. They've done well, failing to cover the spread, though, in 4 of their 9 games. Under's been a slightly better play at 6-3. So the under continues to be a good look on this one. Let's see how Auburn is done when they've been a very heavy favorite. When they've been a favorite between 10 and 15 points this year, Auburn has gone 7-0 and 7-0 against the spread when they've been a favorite of 10 to 15 points. So Auburn has simply dominated in this situation. How about Yale? How has Yale been when they've been an underdog of between 10 and 15 points. Has it happened this year? Only once to Gonzaga, and they lost and they failed to cover. It was an 11.5-point spread, and they lost. By the way, Jason Tatum is out tonight, everybody. Jason Tatum is out. So if you are curious about NBA player prop bets, Jason Tatum not playing tonight. Jaylen Brown should be a good play with him not on the floor. With that said, getting back to Yale and Auburn, personally, definitely have my attention on the under. And right now, I'm just going to be easy about it. I like Auburn to advance. I think it's going to be a very chalky top of the bracket. UConn wins, FAU wins, San Diego State wins, and Auburn wins. I would take Auburn on the money line. Auburn on the money line. And I would take Yale, and I would take Auburn, and I'd take it on the under. Based on the trends that I'm seeing right now, the under, I know a lot of the bets are coming on the over. Right now, I like the under. Now, the money line is moving towards the over, and I kind of like that because, frankly, means I'm going to get a better spot on it. But like under 145.5, I would take that. Under 145.5 for Yale and Auburn. Again, if I look at Auburn, they're a very good team. Don't get me wrong. But Yale plays a slower game, and Auburn already plays a little bit towards the under based on where the line's been set over the last few weeks. So I kind of like the idea of this game being a bit of a slugfest and closer towards the under. That said, I'm going chalky. I have UConn, FAU advancing to the round of 32, San Diego State and Auburn advancing to the second game of the weekend. Let's continue to work down the east side of the bracket. BYU is going to be the next one that we focus on. BYU and Duquesne is the next game we're going to look at. That game tips off on Thursday. So let's jump over to Thursday really quick. Take a look at BYU and Duquesne Dukes. Right now, BYU is a 9.5-point favorite. 55% of the money line tickets are on Duquesne. 48% of the tickets are on Duquesne to cover the spread. 47 on Duquesne to cover the spread when it comes to the money. Under is getting a lot of money. Under in this game is getting a lot of money. The over, 50-50 split on tickets, but the under is getting a lot of money. Let's take a look at these two teams. We'll start by looking at BYU as a favorite this year. How have they done? BYU has gone 22-4 as a favorite, 18-8 against the spread. The over-under has split at 13-3. Now let's take a look at the Duquesne Dukes. Duquesne, as an underdog this year, has won and covered in 4 straight games. They've actually won in 5 of their last 6 games as an underdog. They've covered the spread in 6 of their last 7 games as an underdog. And the under has been a very good play in this. So I understand why the money is leaning towards the under. BYU at a neutral site. They've done very well recently at neutral sites. Really stands out. Other than that, they've just been a very good neutral site team. Want to quickly look at Duquesne as well. Duquesne at neutral sites has won 4 straight games, covered the last 4 straight games against, though that was a most recent conference tournament. Let's take a look at when Duquesne has been an underdog of between 8 and 10 points. We'll start actually with BYU as a favorite, between 8 and 10 points. Right now the line is set, I believe, at 9.5. So the unders hit twice. I can already tell you the unders a play that I like. Let's take a look at when it's between 6 and 10. BYU has gone 5-1 straight up and 5-1 against the spread when they've had a spread of 9.5 points. How about Duquesne? Duquesne, when they've been an underdog between 8 and let's say 10 points, hasn't happened this year. When they're an underdog between 5 and 10 points, they've gone just 2-3 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. They haven't faced a spread of this size yet this year. Right now, I'm staying chalky for the moment. I want to look at one more trend, then we're going to move on. I want to see how BYU has done when they've had a total between 140 and 145. BYU's gone 6-2. And the 2 games they lost, they were an underdog. So when BYU has had a total between 140 and 145 and they've been a favorite, they've gone 6-0, 5-1 against the spread. The over has gone 4-2. Let's flip it around now. When Duquesne has had a total between 140 and 145, regardless of being a favorite or an underdog, Duquesne has gone 6-2, 3-5 against the spread. The under's gone 7-1. Okay, I'm going to stay chalky. I've been chalky so far. I'm going to stay chalky. I'm going to say BYU advances. BYU advances. But I would also take the under. So I'm not going to put BYU up on the board. I do think they win, but I'll put them up as a money line. I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest. But I will take Duquesne. I have no idea if I'm spelling that correctly. Oh. Apparently I am. Okay, under Duquesne, BYU. We're going to take the under. Right now I'm seeing 142.5. I don't want it quite there. I take 146.5. Under 146.5. By the way, the line movement on that one opened at 142, went down, then since has come back up. So we're staying chalky in the bracket. We're going BYU to advance. We've done 5 games so far. Thus far in the eastern side of the bracket, on the east bracket, we've stayed pretty chalky. Next game is Illinois and Morehead State. Let's take a look at it. Illinois and Morehead State. Illinois is getting a lot of love both on the tickets and on the money to win. Not surprised. The under is getting a little bit more action when it comes to the total. Spread, thus far the tickets are on Morehead State. We'll see if the money's on it as the week progresses. Let's dive into this one. Let's look at Illinois as a favorite so far this year. Illinois as a favorite has gone 23-5, but against the spread, they've actually had a tough time going 15-13 against the spread. The over's been a very good play for Illinois. It's gone 19-9 over the course of the season when they've been a favorite, and it's really done well since about late January. Even at the start of the new year, the under's only hit in 3 games that they've played in since about January 11th. So the over's been a phenomenal play for Illinois. Keep your eye on that one for the moment. Let's take a look at Morehead State as an underdog this year. Morehead State has been an underdog 7 times. They've gone 3-4 straight up, 4-3 against the spread. They've covered the spread in 4 straight games as an underdog. However, in 2 games in which they had in 3 games in which they had a massive spread, they only covered 4 games they've had a spread of over 10 points. They lost all 4. Kind of stands out there. So I don't mean to rain on the parade of Morehead State, but already get a bad feeling about it. Morehead State, when they've been at a neutral site, 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. How about Illinois? Obviously at neutral sites, they've been on fire 5 straight games. They've won on a neutral site, 3 of those coming in the Big Ten tournament. They've gone 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games on a neutral site. Spread is set is at 12.5. Let's see when Illinois has been a favorite of between 10 and 15 points. How have they done so far this year? Illinois has gone 5-0. They failed to cover the spread in 3 of those 5 games, but they have done very well. I'm going to advance Illinois in the bracket. I think Illinois does get the win. Feel strongly about it. Illinois on the money line. I would definitely put that into some of my bets, put that up as a parlay. I also like, though, Morehead State, Illinois to hit the over. That definitely stands out to me, at least for the moment. Right now, the total is set at 147.5. It opened at 149.5, has since come down. I'm kind of surprised by that. Let's take a look at how these 2 teams have done with this total. By the way, Morehead State, when they've had a spread between 10 points and, like I said, 15 points, hasn't been good. Hasn't been good. So that's why we're moving on from it. Let's take a look at Illinois, though. When they've had a total between, let's say, 145 and 150, the over's been a good play in the last 5 games, last 7 games. I really like this. I like the over here. I feel very strongly about it. Let's take a look at Morehead State when they've been under that circumstance. 145, 150. Overs hit both times. Feel really good about the over, guys. Feel really good about the over. I would take it over 144.5. That would be the play for me. So we're working our way through the east part of the bracket. We've advanced nothing but chalk so far. Will that continue? We're almost our entire way through the east. And thus far, I actually don't have a problem with the chalk. The one game that kind of stood out to me where I kind of wanted to go with the underdog was Northwestern against FAU. I could see UAB beating San Diego State, but I don't feel as good about it. I don't like Yale. I think Yale could cover a spread, but I couldn't see them actually beating Auburn. I think Auburn's a much better team. Northwestern FAU's one, though, that I'm on the fence about. I want to say Northwestern on the money line. I just can't right now. I'll take them on a spread play, but for the moment, I'm going to stick with FAU actually advancing in the bracket. We have two more games to go through in the East. Next one's going to be Washington State and Drake. Washington State and Drake. Looking at this game is tipping off. This is a late start. Latest game of the day, actually, on Thursday. Drake Bulldogs, the 10th seed against Washington State, the 7th seed. Drake is actually the favorite. This is one where the higher seed, the worst seed, number 10, is actually a favorite in this one. So we're going to have some fun looking at the trends for this game. Washington State. So let's take a look when Washington State has been an underdog this year. Let's start with that side. Washington State's been an underdog 10 times. They've actually covered the spread in 6 of their last 7 games as an underdog. They've won 6 of their last 7 games as an underdog. And during the season when they have been an underdog, the under has gone 7-3. So a lot of underdog under talk there. Let's take a look at when Drake has been a favorite this year. When Drake has been a favorite, they've gone 24-5 straight up. Against the spread, though, 15-4, so they haven't been great. More recently, they've been good against the spread. The over has been a slightly better play at 17-12. Let's take a look at how Drake has done on neutral sites. 13-2 straight up, 10-4-1 against the spread, 5-10 fading the over on that one. The under's got the better record. Interesting there. Let's take a look at Washington State at a neutral site. Washington State has struggled on neutral site. 6-8 straight up, 6-8 against the spread. Let's see when Drake's been just a slight favorite. When Drake has been a favorite between 1 and let's say 3 points. When Drake's been just a slight favorite this year, they've gone 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. The over's gone 3-2. Let's flip it around now. When Washington State has been an underdog by between 1 and 3 points so far this year, they lost the only game they played under those circumstances. When they've been an underdog, though, by less than 5 points, they have gone 2-1. But the one time that the spread was under 3 points, they ended up losing. Kind of interesting there. The total for this game right now is set at 137. So let's see how Drake is done when they've had a total between 135 and 140. They've gone 6-0 straight up, 4-2 against the spread. The over has gone 4-2 as well. Washington State, when they've had a total between 135 and 140, Drake has gone 6-2 straight up, 3-5 against the spread. The over has gone 6-2. Kind of curious, just based on the rest. When Drake has had at least 5 days of rest this season, they have gone 2-0. And when Washington State has had at least 5 days of rest, they've actually only gone 2-3. So I'm going to advance the underdog on this one. I think this is the first game. Now, it's interesting that they're a favorite, but I think it's justified. I think Drake gets the win. Drake on the money line, I would take it. I'd probably take Drake minus 1.5 as well. If I've got them winning, I think they're going to win by more than 1 point. So I take Drake on the money line, and I would take Drake -1.5. So putting that bet up on the board, that is our first upset. Technically, it's not an upset if you're a bettor, but in terms of the bracket, it is an upset with 10 beating 7. So let's go to our last game of the East bracket. That's Iowa State, South Dakota. Iowa State has been on fire. Kind of surprised that they weren't in more of a conversation for the number 1 seed, for a 1 seed overall. They went 21-3 straight up as a favorite this year, 16-8 against the spread as a favorite. The under's been a very, very good play over the last few weeks when they've been a favorite. Let's take a look now at their opponent, South Dakota State. When South Dakota State has been an underdog, they've gone 3-3 straight up, 5-1 against the spread. Over's gone 4-2. How about at neutral sites? Iowa State at neutral sites over the last few years, 7-5 straight up, 6-6 against the spread. They did go 3-0, obviously, in the Big 12 Conference Tournament. The under's gone 7-5 at neutral sites for them over the last few years. Taking a look at South Dakota State, under's been a good play for South Dakota State over the last few weeks as well. For the last few games they played at neutral sites. That's the only thing that stands out there. Let's take a look at when Iowa State has been a favorite of at least 15 points. Let's say between 15 and 20 points. Iowa State won the only game under those circumstances. It was against West Virginia. They failed to cover the spread. By the way, Gavin, the website I'm using is killersports.com. KILLER sports.com. So make sure you guys check that out. Jet, I love the idea. I put the Pacers money line. I took that one as well. So Iowa State, when they've been a heavy favorite, only one game. Let's take a look on the other side of things. When South Dakota State's been a heavy underdog this year, how did they do? Haven't played a game actually under those circumstances. When they've been a 10-point underdog, haven't played a game under those circumstances. Wow. Only one game where they were more than an 8-point underdog. Wow. Don't like what I'm seeing. When San Diego State's been an underdog by 4 points or more, they've gone just 1-3. So I'm going to advance Iowa State. Only one upset that I have in the East so far, but I do like Iowa State on the money line. Put that into a very chalky parlay. I think that's who advances. So thus far, this is who I have advancing in the East to the round of 32. I have UConn and FAU advancing to the round of 32 and meeting. I have San Diego State playing Auburn in the round of 32. I have BYU meeting Illinois in the round of 32. And I have Drake playing Iowa State in the round of 32. We are going to work our way down to the West now. We're going to look at the West. North Carolina there's a play-in game here. I'm just going to advance UNC. I don't think there's going to be a 16-1 upset this year. No, I don't think, Max, that a 1 gets upset. Not too concerned about that. So I do have North Carolina winning. I don't know who they will play against, but I will say UNC on the money line. I'd be super chalky about it. I feel very good about UNC winning and advancing at least to the round of 32. So that's the first one we'll put through in the West. Next game we have is Mississippi State, Michigan State. This is a really interesting game to me. This game tips off at 12:15 on Thursday. So this is actually the first game of the round of 64. Really excited about this one. Michigan State is a slight favorite, 1.5-point favorite. Another situation where the underdog is being favored. 54% of the tickets are on Mississippi State. 73% of the money is on Michigan State. Additionally, 57% of the tickets are on Michigan State to cover. 77% of the money is on Michigan State to cover the spread. 92% of the money is on the under. So there is a lot of money coming down on the under. We'll keep our eye on that. How has Michigan State done as a favorite so far this year? They've gone 16-8 straight up. 14-10 against the spread. The under's been a better play, especially of late. So again, keep your eye on the under. There's a reason the money's getting a lot of the under in this one. So let's take a look at when Mississippi State has been an underdog this year. Mississippi State's gone 3-7 straight up, 4-6 against the spread. Under's gone 5-5, but the under's hit in 3 of the last 4 games. Mississippi State's been an underdog. When Michigan State has been at a neutral site over the last couple of years, they've gone 7-7 straight up, 8-6 against the spread, 7-7 straight towards over-under. So nothing there. Mississippi State at neutral sites, 13-4 straight up, 10-7 against the spread. Mississippi State has actually covered the spread in 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 straight games. Mississippi State has covered the spread in 9 straight neutral site games. Unders hit in 4 straight of those neutral site games. Keep your eye on that. Something that makes me a little bit nervous. Let's look at Michigan State. When they've been a favorite by -1 between -1 and -2, haven't played a game under those circumstances yet. Between -1 and -3, nope. When Michigan State has been a favorite of 5 points or less, between 5 points and a point, they've gone just 2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the spread. How about Mississippi State? When Mississippi State has been an underdog of between 1 and 3 points, they've gone 2-1 straight up. Only game they lost was against Texas A&M. That was on the road. Now, the other 2 wins did come at home, so it makes me a little bit nervous there. Interesting. This game's getting trickier and trickier by the minute. Let's take a look at the total for this one. It's like at 130. So I'm going to say at 130, between 130 and 135. How have these 2 teams done? Michigan State, when they've had a total between 130 and 135, they lost to Wisconsin. That was at home and the under hit. Interesting to note. They were favored in that game. On the other side of things, Mississippi State, when they've had a total between 130 and 135, they've gone 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. The unders hit 3 out of 5 times. So right now, if there's any bet I like Michigan State and Mississippi State to hit the under. Michigan State, Mississippi State under. Right now it's at 130.5. I'd buy it at 134.5. Michigan State, Mississippi State under 134.5. If I had to go any direction for this game, it's a tricky one for me to be fair, but I will take Michigan State on the money line. I don't love it. I'm not crazy about it. You guys can hear there's some hesitation in my voice. But I'm going to trust that Izzo. And by the way, this is what has me concerned. I think there's a lot of Izzo money coming down. People that are just betting on it because it's Izzo. But I think I trust Michigan State a little bit more. So I will put Michigan State and have them advance. It will be a 9-8 upset. It sets up North Carolina, Michigan State. I think North Carolina is going to blow the doors off Michigan State in that game. So I'm actually willing to already kind of advance that one as I build out the bracket. So that's how I see UNC actually making the Sweet 16. They get the win in a play-in game, and then they beat Michigan State. So anyways, we have covered now 2 games in the West. We're going to work our way down the bracket. Next game we're going to focus on is St. Mary's. Again, I'm going through every game of the first round of the NCAA tournament. Hope you guys love being with us. Hope you guys are enjoying the content and the conversation. Luna Jack, what's good? Lanny One, what's good? El Pinche, Maple Bacon, great to see you. Cesar Torres, Top Dog. If any of you guys want any of my picks, I give them away for free every day. Just DM me on Instagram. A really quick recap. We'll do a quick recap right now. My picks for the East part of the bracket. UConn and FAU advance. San Diego State and Auburn advance. BYU and Illinois advance. Drake and Iowa State advance. And then moving to the West, I have UNC meeting Michigan State in the round of 32. And now we are going to break down St. Mary's and Grand Canyon, everybody. That's the next game we're going to focus on. Armando, no problem. We'll be doing recaps throughout the show. And additionally, this entire broadcast is going live right now on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. If you want to find this broadcast after we are finished, you can go to YouTube. It'll be posted. You'll be able to see it's a bracket. It says bracket in the title, so you'll be able to check it. Gavin, I will publish my bracket as well, so you'll be able to see the bracket. But if you want to hear just any of the trends or data, if you want to listen to the sound of my voice for a couple of hours, you know where to go. That's Butt Fumble Sports on YouTube. And check out our bracket show that we're doing right now. Next game we're going to focus on is St. Mary's and Grand Canyon. St. Mary's obviously winning their conference tournament, beating Gonzaga. St. Mary's. When St. Mary's has been a favorite this year, my dogs are about to bark. No, Buzz. No one's there. Okay, when St. Mary's has been a favorite this year, they've gone 21-7. Only 14-14 though straight up. The over has gone 16-12. Their matchup against Grand Canyon GCU. When Grand Canyon has been an underdog this year, they've gone 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread, 1-1 on the total. Forgive me if you hear the dogs barking a little bit. St. Mary's, when they've been at a neutral site, they've gone 8-6 straight up, 7-7 against the spread. Haven't been actually a great against the spread team over the last few years at neutral sites. Let's take a look at Grand Canyon. Sorry about the dogs. Grand Canyon's gone 10-4 on neutral sites, 9-4 against the spread. Grand Canyon actually has a 4-game winning streak at neutral sites. Interesting. Overs hit pretty well there. Let's take a look at St. Mary's College. When the total has been... Got to find this game. This game is being played... Oh, it's being played on the next day. So we got to switch over. It's being played on Friday. St. Mary's and Grand Canyon. Right now, St. Mary's is a 5.5-point favorite. When they've been a favorite between 5 and let's say 8 points. St. Mary's has gone 4-1 straight up, but 1-4 against the spread. So Grand Canyon University against the spread might be a very strong play. Let's take a look at Grand Canyon. When they've been an underdog of between 5 and 8 points. Haven't actually had any games under that circumstance. How about if I make them a 3-point underdog? They won the one time they were a 3-point underdog. Kind of interesting there. When they've been an underdog, the 2 times they've been an underdog between 1 and 10 points, Grand Canyon University didn't just win. They covered the spread as well. Or obviously they covered the spread, but they also won. I kind of smell a bit of an upset here. I kind of like it. Grand Canyon, St. Mary's. St. Mary's, 73 points per game. Grand Canyon's around 74 per game. I think we've got our first big, didn't expect it upset right here. I kind of like this one. Let's continue to look at the totals before we get too excited. When St. Mary's is at a total between 130 and 135, they've won their last 6 straight games with a total of that size. If I trim that down between 130 and 132, they've only gone 3-2 when it's that tight. They have hit the over in 4 of the 5 games. Let's go for Grand Canyon University. When they've had a total that low, they haven't actually at any point this year. Lowest game they played was at 137.5. They won both of them. Guys, I kind of like Grand Canyon. When the Grand Canyon University has played a game where the total has been set below 140, they have gone 7-0. Guys, this is going to be my first big upset of the bracket. I'm taking the Grand Canyon Antelopes to upset St. Mary's. That's what I'm taking. Biggest upset I have so far, that's a 12-5 upset. I am going to take Grand Canyon. Now, when it comes to a bet, I will just take them to cover the spread. How I bet and how I build the bracket aren't going to be the exact same. But Grand Canyon, if I could get them at plus 7.5, take it. Grand Canyon's going to be my first big upset. I like it. I like it a lot. I like the upset. I think they win. I think they get the upset on, obviously, they cover. So this is my first big upset. We had a couple. We had Michigan State beating Mississippi State. That's a 9-8. we had FAU winning, or sorry, we had what was the other small upset we had Drake upsetting Washington State. That's a 10-7 upset. But the first big upset we're going to call is Grand Canyon University. So there you go. Okay, so we've given out our first big. I'm not going to bet, by the way, I'm not going to bet a total on this game. Frankly, I kind of like the over. If I were to go in any direction, I might touch the over on this. No, I'm not. I tease. I'm not going to touch the total, but I kind of have my eye on it. Kind of got my eye on it. Very interested by it. I like Grand Canyon University to cover the spread, and that's the first one I'm picking as a big upset. Let's take a look at Alabama and Charleston. Alabama and Charleston is the next game we're going to be looking at. Alabama, Charleston. That game tips off at 7:35 on Friday. Alabama right now is getting 72% of the tickets on the money line. As for the spread, though, Charleston is getting 86% of the tickets, 97% of the money to cover the spread. The over is getting a lot more love when it comes to the total. So let's take a look at Alabama as a favorite so far this year. When Alabama's been a favorite, they've gone 20-4, 15-9 against the spread, but they have actually failed to cover the spread in 4 of their last 5 games overall. The over's been a very good play for Alabama, going 17-7. It's been very strong of late. Has only failed to cover the spread once since about the start of February, so the over's been very strong for Alabama. Let's take a look at the College of Charleston. When they have been an underdog this year, they have gone 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. The under's gone 3-2 as well. How about at a neutral site? Alabama at a neutral site has gone 9-7 straight up, 7-9 against the spread. Over's been a good play. Again, against the spread, Alabama's really struggled for some reason on the road. At neutral sites in their last 2, 4, 6, 7 games at a neutral site. They have only covered the spread once. So they failed to cover the spread in 6 of their last 7 games at a neutral site. How about the College of Charleston? When they've been at a neutral site, they've gone 7-4 straight up. They've actually won their last 4 games at a neutral site. They've covered the spread in 2 of their last 4. The under, though, has been a phenomenal play. Under's gone 8-2-1 when the College of Charleston has played at a neutral site. The total for this game is at a ridiculous 172.5. That is a stupidly high total. Be aware of that. As for the spread on this game, it's set at 9.5. Let's look at how Alabama's done when they've been a favorite between, let's say, 8 and 12 points. So kind of a wider margin. When they've been a favorite of between 8 and 12 points, they've gone 7-1 straight up, 5-3 against the spread. The over's gone 7-1 as well. How about the College of Charleston? When they've had a spread between, let's say, 8 and 12 points, haven't had a spread of that size at any point this year. When they've been an underdog of 5 points or more, hasn't happened this year. Interesting. College of Charleston has been an underdog just twice this year of 3 points or more. They won and covered both of those games. The over went 1-1. Interesting. Okay, the total's ridiculous. The total's like ridiculously high at 172. I'm just going to look at when Alabama's had a total over 160. Alabama's had a total over 160. Wow. Crazy amount of times. Let's make it over 170. Here's a stat for you. Here's a stat you guys are going to like. Alabama has had a total over 170 points 7 times this season. They have failed to cover the spread in all 7 games. Guys, I like Alabama to win, but keep your eye out for this game. Alabama could get upset. Keep your eye on this one. I'm going to take the College of Charleston to cover the spread, everybody. College of Charleston to cover the spread. I'll take it at like 13.5 12.5. I feel like that's a great spot. I did not like what I saw here. I'd take them to cover the spread. I'm going to take it again. I'll take it at 12.5, 13.5. But that's a good play to me. College of Charleston, look out for that one, guys. I like Alabama on the money line, but I like the College of Charleston to win. I have Alabama advancing, but keep your eye on it. I don't think Alabama's going to lose, Daddy Nathan. I don't think Alabama's going to lose. I do have Alabama on the money line, but I think the College of Charleston is going to get the cover. I think they're going to cover the spread. Not going to bet the total on that one. It's just too high. 172, 173.5. That's just too high for me. Too rich for my blood. We're working our way through the West right now. We've done 4 games so far in the West. We have North Carolina advancing, Michigan State advancing, our big upset, Grand Canyon upset St. Mary's to advance, and we have Alabama surviving a game against the College of Charleston that we think is going to be a little bit close. We have 4 more games to get to in the West. That'll mean we would be halfway through the entire bracket. We are going through the entire first round right now. By the way, Daddy Nathan, that was the toughest game for me to pick so far. I'm picking FAU to win. I'm taking Northwestern to cover at like plus 4.5, plus 5.5. But my heart's telling me Northwestern. My head's telling me FAU. It's just, I brought it up when we went through the game trends. To me, the reason I'm taking FAU, I feel like it's a battle for which team gets to 75 points. And I think FAU has a greater offense and gets to 75 points just ahead of Northwestern. If you told me that game was literally 75, 73, 76, 73, I'd believe it. I think it's going to be a very close game. For some games, I always think it's kind of a race to a certain number. Most games, I would say it's a race to 65 or 70. For that one, it's a race to 75. Let's get to the next game on the schedule that we have, or the next game in the western part of the bracket. That is Clemson against New Mexico, everybody. Clemson against New Mexico. Next one we're going to focus on. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are loving the show. Make sure you DM us on Instagram if you want any of my picks. I give away my picks for free. I just love talking sports with you guys every day. So DM me on Instagram to make sure you get every bet that we're doing, every comment, every question, everything. It'll be available to you guys. Next game we're going to focus on is this Clemson game. Clemson against New Mexico. And right now, New Mexico is actually a 2.5 point favorite. There are a few of these games where the lower seed, the worst seed, is actually the favorite. So New Mexico is getting 71% of the tickets on the money line, 89% of the money. 89% of the money that's been bet in this game is on New Mexico to win. So very interesting there. Let's take a look at when Clemson's been an underdog this year. Clemson has been an underdog 7 times this year. They've gone 4-1 straight up, 6-1 against the spread. The over's gone 5-2. How about New Mexico? How has New Mexico been as a favorite this year? New Mexico's played 27 games as a favorite. They've gone 23-4, 20-7 against the spread. The over-under has been split at 14-13, but the under's been a very good play, going 5-1 over the last 6 games. How has New Mexico been at neutral site games? New Mexico at a neutral site over the last 2 years has gone 10-1 straight up, 9-2 against the spread, and again, the under's been a slightly better play. That's at a neutral site over the last few years. How about Clemson? When Clemson's been at a neutral site over the last couple of seasons, how have they done? 6-4 straight up, 4-6 against the spread. The under's been a good play. Kind of interesting that the over's getting more love. The under seems to be a better trend actually on this one. Let's take a look at it. When New Mexico has been a favorite of, let's say, 1 to 3 points. So when New Mexico's been a favorite of between 1 and 3 points this season, Giannis ruled out yesterday. You screamed at the under. It was 217 before the fourth. Honestly, it's because the defense went away. The Bucks Bobby Portis Jr. just started shooting the lights out. I thought without Giannis, it would mean less offense. No, it meant less defense. I was surprised by it myself. Still waiting on killersports.com to load. Yeah. I missed on that user 45. By the way, I don't think I'm infallible. I don't think I get everything right. We do the best we can every single day, but there are certainly things that we miss. So I don't want to give the impression that I always think I'm right. No. Sometimes there are things that go wrong. But Giannis not being there certainly impacted the likelihood of points being scored. As it turns out, more points were scored. Okay, New Mexico, when they have had a spread between 1 and 3 points, they've gone 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Certainly like to see that. How about Clemson? When Clemson's been an underdog between 1 and 3 points, Clemson's gone 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. If I extend that to 5 points, 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Shoot. This is a tricky one. Let's look at the total. Let's look at the total, everybody. Total set at 150.5. When Clemson has had a total between 150 and 155, Clemson's gone 6-2 straight up, 7-2 against the spread. The over's gone 5-4. When New Mexico has had a total between 150 and 155, New Mexico has gone 7-4 straight up, 6-5 against the spread. Under's gone 6-5. When Clemson has had at least 5 days of rest, they've gone 3-2, 4-0 against the spread. And New Mexico with at least 5 days of rest, more than 5 days of rest, 4-1. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I think New Mexico is going to win. I think New Mexico advances. I'm with Kenrick on this one. I think New Mexico wins. I'm going to take New Mexico on the money line. I'm going to take New Mexico on the money line, but I will take Clemson to cover the spread right now. Clemson's a 2.5-point underdog. I think they can cover a 6.5-point spread, maybe 5.5. I'm not going to get too nutty with it, but Clemson, I'll say plus 6.5. I'll take them to cover the spread. So I'm splitting the difference on this one. I have New Mexico to get the win and advance to the round of 32, but I'll take Clemson to cover the spread because, as Casey said, kind of feels like a 50-50 game. I think New Mexico ultimately gets the win, but I just care a little bit. I just feel a little bit better about this. Appreciate you guys watching the show. And again, I don't take any of the comments personally. If you guys, obviously I want to give you guys winners, but I also promise you guys, I'm doing this based on data, trends, and analytics. Sometimes the trends continue, like the Bucks have been a really good underplay. The trend didn't continue. You could say that's because Giannis didn't play. You could say it's because of other factors. But the whole point is sometimes trends don't continue. My whole job is I like to give out trends that are consistently going in the same direction. So when we have 3, 4, 5 trends all pointing in the same direction, that's when I put my bets together. So hopefully you guys follow the right ones. I'm not going to say they're all correct, but we give out picks every day trying to help you guys out. Next game we're going to focus on is Baylor and Colgate. Baylor and Colgate's going to be the next one we go to. By the way, those watching on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, really appreciate you guys joining us, as well as the folks on TikTok. We have been live now for a couple hours. We're going a couple hours more. Let's look at Baylor and Colgate, everybody. Baylor and Colgate. When Baylor's been a favorite this year, they've gone 20-2 straight up, 16-2 against the spread. They've been on a consistent winning streak as a favorite. Let's take a look at Colgate as an underdog this year. When Colgate has been an underdog, they've gone 1-5 straight up, 2-4 against the spread. Guys, we won't take too much time with it. I'm taking Baylor to win, Baylor to advance, Baylor on the money line. Baylor, Bears. I'm just taking those Baylor Bears, everybody. That's an easy one for me. Baylor Bears. That game tips off at 12:40 on Friday rather. 13.5-point spread. I love Baylor. Question is, do I like him to cover the spread? We'll dive into it for just a little bit. Not going to spend too much time on it though, because this feels like it's just a heavy Baylor play. When Colgate has been an underdog between, let's say, 8 and 15 points, hasn't actually happened this year. When they've been an underdog of 5 points, they lost. Did cover the spread. When they were an underdog of 3 points, they've gone 1-2. So a lot of reasons to believe this is an easy one. How about when Baylor's been a favorite of between 10 and let's say 15 points, 10, 15 points. Baylor won the only game under that circumstance when they've been an 8-point favorite between 8 and 15. Nope. Between 5 and 15. Baylor's gone 7-0. They've gone 6-1 against the spread. So I just love the Baylor Bears. Baylor Bears to win. Easy one to advance on. Yeah, I did take New Mexico on the money line. So we have Baylor advancing to play New Mexico in the round of 32. We have 2 more games left in the West, and then we will be halfway done with the entire bracket. Again, we're going through the entire first round to give out our picks. Someone's asking me about an injury update for tonight's action. Lauri Markkanen is playing. Lauri Markkanen is playing tonight. Appreciate you guys joining us. If you guys want any of our picks, DM me on Instagram. I will recap all of the East and all of the West picks after we finish up the Western part of the bracket. So we will recap in just a couple of moments. But first, we're going to finish out the West by looking at Dayton, Nevada, and Arizona, Long Beach State. Appreciate you guys being with us, though. Hit that follow button. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys are with us. We give out our picks for free every day. We love talking sports with you guys every day. So make sure you guys DM me on Instagram, Butt Fumble Sports, to get every bet that I make every day for free. You guys know how we do at Butt Fumble Sports. We want you guys to see the bets we make, and we never charge you for them because that's a ridiculous thing to do. So make sure you follow, and that way you never miss our show or any of our picks. Let's take a look at Dayton and Nevada. Dayton and Nevada tips off on Thursday. Dayton and Nevada tips off at 4:30 on Thursday. Right now, Nevada is the slight favorite, and once again, this is a situation where there is a lower seed, a number 10, that's actually a favorite over a higher seed, a 7. So let's take a look at it. We're going to check out the trends and data behind this one to see if that's justified. Just got to check out what the code is for Nevada. NEV, not surprised. When Nevada has been a favorite so far this year, they've gone 19-5 straight up, 15-9 against the spread. The over's been a better play of late. Hasn't been a good play over the course of the season, but over the last couple of weeks, the over's been a slightly better play when Nevada's been a favorite. Now, Nevada plays Dayton. When Dayton has been an underdog this season, they've gone 3-2 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. The under has gone 3-2. On a neutral site, how has Dayton done so far? When Dayton has played at a neutral site over the last few years, they've gone 6-6 straight up, 5-7 against the spread. So not great. Let's take a look at Nevada. When Nevada has played on a neutral site, Nevada's gone 5-5 straight up, 5-5 against the spread. So not a lot there. Let's take a look at when Nevada has been a favorite of between 1 and 3 points. So when they've been a small favorite, they've only gone 1-2. They haven't actually had too many games under these circumstances. When they've been a favorite of 5 points or less, they've actually gone 3-3 straight up. How about Dayton? When Dayton's been a slight underdog this year, when Dayton's been an underdog between 1 and 3 points, they won the only game under that situation. That was against what turned out to be a tournament caliber team in Duquesne. When they've been an underdog by 5 points or less, only happened once. They haven't been an underdog too often this year. Dayton has actually covered the spread in all 3 games they've been an underdog of 8 points or less. They went 2-1 in those games. That was against Northwestern. They lost that game by 5 points, but then against Cincinnati. So they've done a good job actually facing some underdog adversity and covering. Total set at 136. Let's set it between 135 and 140. How have these teams done? When Dayton has had a total between 135 and 140, they have gone 11-2 straight up, 7-6 against the spread. They failed to cover the spread in 4 straight games. How about Nevada? When Nevada has had a total of 135 or 140, they've gone 7-4 straight up, 6-5 against the spread. The over's been a better play. It's a tricky one for me. I don't love Nevada the way other people do. Yeah. This is a tough one for me. I'll take Dayton to cover the spread. I'll take Dayton at plus 5.5 or plus 4.5. So I like Dayton to cover the spread. This is a tough one for me, though. Dayton, Nevada has got to be one of the toughest matchups we've covered so far. Looking at the quick preview of these two teams that's being offered, at least. It's interesting what ESPN offers. That's what it is, though. It's those matchups against top 25 teams. But who's Nevada really played? I'm really caught on this one. I'm sorry, but this may be the toughest one for me to pick so far. Dayton, Nevada. I've got Dayton covering by like 4 or 5 points. I'm gonna go with Dayton. I think Dayton gets the win. I don't love it. I understand that the public is betting on Nevada, and Nevada is getting a lot of love. I'm going to go Dayton. I don't love it, though. Man, this is a tough one for me. I might flip-flop on this one. Dayton and Nevada. This is the trickiest one for me so far that we've done through the East and the West. I'm going to go Dayton. I'm going to say Dayton wins. It's my first reaction based on the trends, based on everything. I understand why Nevada is getting a bit more love, but I'm going to go with Dayton. I'm just riding with it for now. We've got one more game to cover in the West. Then we'll recap the left side of the bracket, and then we're going to go over to the right side and cover every game. We've got another hour, hour and a half, 2 hours left of the show, so obviously a lot still to get to. Don't worry. Let's take a look at Arizona. Probably not going to spend too much time on this one. Arizona, very heavy favorite, going up against Long Beach State. Do I think Long Beach State actually gets a win? No, I don't. But we go through Long Beach State University, but we go through the exercise. Long Beach State has got 9-5 as a dog, 10-4 against the spread. Spread on this is 20.5 points. Crazy. When Arizona has been at least a 20-point underdog, between 20 and 25 points, they've gone 2-0 straight up. The unders hit both times. On the other side of things, when Long Beach State has been an underdog of, let's say, 15 points or more, hasn't happened yet this year. when they've been an underdog by 10 points. They've gone 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. I'm just going to be obvious on this one. I've got Arizona advancing. I think Arizona wins. I got Arizona on the money line. I'm not going to get too nutty on this one. I'm just going to take a simple advance. So let me recap all of the picks we've made so far for the round of 32. I have UConn playing FAU. I'm going to give the teams I have playing each other in the round of 32. I have UConn playing FAU. UConn playing FAU in the East. Then I have San Diego State playing Auburn. And then I have BYU playing Illinois. And finally, Drake upsets Washington State to then play Iowa State in the round of 32. In the West, I have North Carolina meeting Michigan State in the round of 32. I have Grand Canyon pulling off a 12-5 upset against St. Mary's to make it through the round of 64 to the round of 32, and playing Alabama, who barely survives a College of Charleston threat. I have New Mexico upsetting Clemson, and then playing Baylor in the round of 32. New Mexico, Baylor, both teams advance. And I have Dayton barely beating Nevada. It might be the toughest game for me to predict in the first round. And Dayton plays Arizona in the round of 32. So that's the East. That's the West. Now it's time to flip on over, and we'll start with the South. South is going to be where we start our focus for the first matchups of the next side of the bracket. Houston, Longwood. This is going to be a pretty quick one for me as well. I really like Houston. Houston's just a great team. I'm not worried that they're coming off a loss. We'll look at Longwood just to show you guys a little bit of data on them. When Longwood's been an underdog, they've gone 3-7 straight up, 5-5 against the spread. Let's see when Houston's been a heavy favorite. Houston's a favorite of 24.5 points. When Houston's been a favorite of between 20 and 25 points. They've won both times but failed to cover both times. Let's see when Longwood's been an underdog of 10 points or more. They've lost both times. They've covered the spread both times. So I actually kind of like Longwood to cover the spread based on what I'm seeing so far. But honestly, this is about Houston. Houston's one of the best teams in the entire country. I know they lost to Iowa State in ugly fashion, but I love Houston. Houston's a great team. Covering the spread, though, might be a little bit trickier than people think. They might have a tough time covering the spread against Longwood. Let's see. Between 30 and 35. Okay. So I like Houston to advance. Let's call a spade a spade. I like Houston on the money line. No questions asked there. I kind of like Longwood to cover the spread. I'm going to have some fun with this one. And I'll say Longwood covers the spread. This game is on Friday. I'll have some fun with it. Should I? Longwood at like plus 28.5. I'll do it. I'll actually have fun with it. Longwood plus 28.5. I'm going to make that a play. Just taking a little bit of fun on that. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. We're building out our bracket. We have Houston advancing in the South. Let's take a now look. Really interesting game. Nebraska against Texas A&M. Nebraska and Texas A&M is the next game we're going to focus on. This game tips off at 6:50 on Friday. Right now, Nebraska is a slight favorite, 1.5 points. Let's take a look at when Nebraska's been a favorite so far this year. Nebraska as a favorite has gone 18-1 this season. Only game they lost was against Minnesota. That came in December 6th. Since then, Nebraska has not lost another game as a favorite. They've gone 15-4 against the spread as a favorite. They've done really well as a favorite over the last few weeks. So the fact that they are a favorite for this game certainly tells me something. Let's take a look at Texas A&M as an underdog. Texas A&M, when they've been an underdog this year, they've gone 5-6 straight up, 6-5 against the spread. The over's been a slightly better play. For both these teams, the over's been a slightly better play. When Texas A&M has been on a neutral site over the last few years, Texas A&M has gone 7-8 straight up, 8-7 against the spread. Nebraska, when they've been at a neutral site over the last few years, 3-4 straight up and against the spread. The over's been a better play, though, at neutral sites. Spread for this game, 1.5. So let's trim it down. Nebraska, when they've been a favorite of between 1 and let's say 3 points this year, only happened once. It was that Minnesota game that they lost on the road. Has me a little bit nervous. When they've had a spread of 5 points or less, though, they've gone 3-1. Interesting. The barn gave them trouble. How about Texas A&M? When Texas A&M has been an underdog of between 1 and 3 points, they've gone 4-2 straight up, 4-2 against the spread. The over's gone 4-2 as well. Their 2 losses were to Virginia and to Florida. So 2 teams that made the tournament. Interesting to note there. The total set at 146.5. Let's look at it when it's between 145 and 150. Nebraska, when they've had a total between those two, they've gone 7-1 straight up, 5-3 against the spread. The over has gone 4-4, but it's done well. It's gone 5-1 over the last 6 games. 4-1 over the last 5 games. On the other side of things, when Texas A&M has had a total between 145 and 150, wow, 3-5 straight up, 1-7 against the spread. That actually made the difference for me. I am going to take Nebraska to win, and I'll take Nebraska to cover the 1.5 point spread. So Nebraska on the money line, Nebraska minus 1.5. I've got Nebraska getting the win and advancing to play Houston in the round of 32. So that's Nebraska beating Texas A&M just barely and advancing to the round of 32 to play Houston. Next game we're going to focus on, Wisconsin against James Madison University. When Wisconsin has been a favorite so far this season, Wisconsin has gone 17-6 straight up, but just 11-12 against the spread. They did go 3-0 over the last 3 games, both straight up and against the spread, against Rutgers, Maryland, and Northwestern. Over's gone 15-8 for Wisconsin so far this year. James Madison University, when they've been an underdog this year, James Madison has won and covered both times, but both games went to overtime. Interesting, James Madison has only been an underdog 2 times this year. Both games went to overtime. Kind of something to note there if you like the over and if you like the spread. When James Madison has played at a neutral site so far over the last 2 seasons, they've gone 8-2 straight up, 5-4 against the spread, and the over's gone 7-2. When Wisconsin has played at a neutral site, Wisconsin's gone 8-4 straight up, 9-3 against the spread. The under's gone 8-4, but the over's hit in 3 of the last 4 games. When Wisconsin for this game right now is a 5.5 point favorite. When they've been a favorite between 4 and 6 points so far this year, Wisconsin's gone 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the spread, and the over's gone 3-1. When James Madison has been an underdog at all this year, it's been very, very rare, so not a lot of data on it, but when they've been an underdog by 6 points or less, they do have that one win. That was against Kennesaw State, by the way. The total for this game is 145. When James Madison has had a total between 145 and 150, they've gone 7-1 straight up, 7-1 against the spread. When Wisconsin has had a total between 145 and 150, Wisconsin's gone 0-3 and 1-2 against the spread. The overs hit both times. Guys, very, very interesting. Now, I like Wisconsin to win. I don't think this is going to be the upset people think it's going to be. I am curious now. James Madison definitely has my attention. Maybe a little bit more than people think. But I think this game's going to be close, guys. I'll take Wisconsin to win. Wisconsin on the money line. But I'll take James Madison to cover the spread. Right now, the spread for James Madison, this game tips off. This game's a Friday game. This game tips off at 9:40, so a night game. James Madison right now a 5.5-point underdog. I'd take James Madison to cover. I'll take James Madison plus 7.5. Wisconsin, James Madison. I'll also take Wisconsin and James Madison to go over the total. Right now, the total is set at 145. I would take the over. I would take it at over 142. And I'd take it at over 141.5. James Madison and Wisconsin over 141.5. So far, for those curious, we've gone through the East. We've gone through the West. We are 3 games into the North. Sorry, 3 games into the South. So far, we have Houston advancing, Nebraska advancing, and Wisconsin advancing. I do think Wisconsin survives a tough James Madison team. Very, very close game, but I do like Wisconsin. By the way, Cameron, GCU is my biggest upset so far. They are the first big upset we made on the board. I've got GCU pulling off the upset against St. Mary's. Okay, next game we're going to focus on is Duke, Vermont. Duke, Vermont, everybody. Oh, wow. What just happened? What just happened? Okay, Duke, Vermont. We're just going to act like nothing happened. Okay, Duke is a favorite this year. Has gone 24-6, 18-12 against the spread. They actually have lost and failed to cover their last 2 games as a favorite this year. They haven't lost 3 games in a row as a favorite at any point, but they have failed to cover the spread 3 times in a row, twice this year. So something to keep your eye on. Under has also been a better play when it comes to Duke, going 19-11. How about Duke's opponent, Vermont? How have they done as an underdog this year? Vermont has gone 4-3 straight up, 4-3 against the spread. The under has gone 5-2. So the under at least has my attention for the moment. This game tips off, by the way, Friday at 7:10. Right now, Vermont's getting a lot of love when it comes to covering the spread, just so you know. Let's take a look at Duke on neutral sites over the last few years. 9-4 straight up, 8-5 against the spread, but the under's gone 11-2. How about Vermont at neutral sites? 3-5 straight up, 3-5 against the spread. The under's gone 5-3. Already, I can tell you guys, I love the under. The under is a good play in this one. Let's take a look at when Duke has been a favorite. Right now, Duke is a favorite of 11.5 points. When Duke has been a favorite of between, let's say, 10 and 15 points this year, Duke has played 7 games under those circumstances. They've only gone 4-3. They are 2-5 against the spread. The under's gone 4-3. How about Vermont? When Vermont's been a double-digit underdog this year, when they've been an underdog by 10 points, actually hasn't happened yet this year. When they've been an underdog by more than 5 points, they've gone just 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the spread, but the under's been a good play. This is what I'm going to, let's take a look at the total before I do anything else. Duke, when they played a game with a total between 130 and let's say 135, I don't think it's happened often this year, twice, they did go 2-0 and the under hit both times. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Duke on the money line, but I will take Duke and Vermont to go under their total. I take it at under 138.5. So that's Duke and Vermont under 138.5. Buy it up as much as you can. But I do like the under. I do have Duke advancing. So right now, the top of my South bracket, I have Houston advancing, Nebraska advancing, Duke advancing, and Wisconsin advancing. I wanted to take James Madison, but I just couldn't do it. I think that game is very, very close, though. So look at the 5-12 if you are looking for upsets. But so far, I'm pretty chalky in the South. Let's move down to the bottom part of the South bracket. Next game we're going to focus on is Texas Tech against NC State. This game is on Thursday, 9:40 tip-off. NC State, Texas Tech. So far, NC State is getting love from the public on money line and on the spread. Texas Tech is a 4.5-point favorite, so kind of interesting there. By the way, Texas proud, I think you are totally up to something. Really good call by you. By the way, for this NC State and Texas Tech game, the under appears to be a pretty good play, so certainly keep your eye on that one. Now, let's go through this game. We're going to look at when NC State's been it's Texas Tech. When Texas Tech has been a favorite so far this year. I got to remember what Texas Tech's thing is. I know what NC State is, so we'll do it this way. When NC State has been an underdog this year, they've gone 6-11 straight up, 9-8 against the spread, but obviously NC State went on their run in the went on a run in the ACC tournament. They went 4-0 in the ACC tournament as an underdog. How about when Texas Tech has been a favorite so far this year? Texas Tech, as a favorite, has gone 19-2 straight up. Only 11-10 against the spread, though. The under's been a pretty good play of late. When Texas Tech has been at a neutral site over the last few years, they've gone 6-5 straight up. Nothing I can really take from this. I'm just seeing if there are any trends that stand out, but so far not really. NC State has been very good at neutral site games over the last few years, covering the spread. Okay, Texas Tech is a 4.5-point favorite. Let's see when Texas Tech's been a favorite of between 3 and 5 points this year. Texas Tech's played 3 games where they've been a favorite between 3 and 5 points. They've gone just 1-2, straight up, and 1-2 against the spread. If I expand that out to between 3 and 7 points, they've only covered the spread 1 time in those 4 games. So NC State as a cover certainly has my attention. Now let's look at NC State when they've been an underdog between 3 and 5 points. 0-1, that came against Florida State. If I expand that out to 7, when NC State has been an underdog between 3 and 7 points, they're 0-5 straight up. They're 0-5 against the spread. That settles it right there, everybody. We are going to take Texas Tech on the money line. Texas Tech on the money line. I really want to take NC State to cover. I like the idea of it, but frankly, the trends don't back it, everybody. Trends don't back it. Let's take a look at the total really quick. It's set between 145 and 150. When NC State has had a total between 145 and 150, they have gone 11-4 straight up, 8-7 against the spread. Over's gone 11-4. How about Texas Tech? When Texas Tech's had a total between that, 4-3 straight up, 3-4 against the spread, 5-2 towards the over. Part of me wants to take NC State to cover. I like NC State at like a plus 8.5. I'll do that. NC State plus 8.5. But I like Texas Tech to win in advance. I think North Carolina State might have had their run in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if they can do it 2 weeks in a row. So I'm going to take Texas Tech to win and advance to the round of 32. Next game we're going to focus on Kentucky against Oakland. Feels like everybody is taking Kentucky. In fact, they are one of the biggest liabilities right now for the sports books. Sports books are definitely rooting against Kentucky. All the money's coming down on Kentucky. On the money line, on the spread, they are getting all the love. The over is getting also a lot of action. Let's take a look at when Kentucky has been a favorite this year. Kentucky's gone 18-7 straight up, 12-13 against the spread. They failed to cover the spread in 3 straight games, 4 of their last 5, 5 of their last 7. They've done a really poor job covering the spread of late. The over has been a slightly better play over their last few games, though. Let's take a look at Oakland. How has Oakland been as an underdog this year? Oakland's gone 7-8 straight up, 11-4 against the spread. Over's gone 8-7. Oakland has covered the spread in 4 of their last 5 games, but those had very, very small lines. When they've had a big line so far this year, hasn't really worked out for them for the most part. Let's take a look at that. When Oakland's been an underdog by at least 13 points, between 13 and let's say 20 points, Oakland has gone 1-2 straight up, 2-1 against the spread, but the over is hit all 3 times. How about Kentucky? When Kentucky's been a very heavy favorite this year, Kentucky as a favorite of, let's say, between 13 and, let's say, 15 points. They have gone 5-0 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. Over's gone 3-2 as well. I'll just take Kentucky on the money line. Not going to get crazy with it. I'll just take Kentucky on the money line and Kentucky to advance. So Kentucky makes the round of 32. They will play Texas Tech in our bracket. We have 2 more games to get to in the South. Next one, Florida, Boise State, Colorado. I'm going to skip this one because it's a play-in game. So because I don't know the matchup, hard for me to go with it. So we're going to skip that one, and we're just going to move to Marquette, Western Kentucky. Also not going to take too much time on this one because I don't think Marquette's going to lose. As a favorite this year, they've gone 21-4, 16-9 straight up. They have been on an incredible winning streak when they have been a favorite, and they've had an incredible winning streak against the spread as a favorite as well. When we look at Western Kentucky, this game tips off Friday at 2. So Friday, 2 p.m. Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, Marquette Golden Eagles, 14.5 point spread on this one. When Marquette has been a very heavy favorite this year, again, between, let's say, 13 and 20 points. They've gone 2-0 straight up, 1-2 against the spread. When the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers have been an underdog between 13 and 20 points, hasn't happened yet this year. How about when an underdog of 10 points? Hasn't happened yet this year. Underdog of 8 points or more. Happened once. They did cover the spread, but not enough here for me to get crazy about. I'll take Marquette on the money line. Would just be folded into a parlay play kind of thing. But Marquette on the money line, I would do that. I think they will advance. So here's a quick recap of the south part of the bracket. We're very chalky in this one. We've got Houston, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Duke, Texas Tech, Kentucky, and then Marquette. So we actually are all chalk in the South. I thought about taking NC State over Texas Tech, didn't pull the trigger. Really thought about taking James Madison over Wisconsin. Very tight on that. But right now in the South, I'm seeing super chalk. So I'm all chalk in the South. In the East, I'm pretty chalky. The one upset we had Drake beating Washington State. Other than that, I'm all chalk in the East. In the West, that's where we got the most upsets. We had Grand Canyon upsetting St. Mary's. We had Michigan State upsetting Mississippi State. We had New Mexico upsetting Clemson. And though it's not an upset in terms of seeding, it is in terms of betting. I like Dayton to beat Nevada. Very, very close. Right now, through the games we've gone through, Dayton, Nevada is probably the hardest game for me to predict. But I do have actually the betting underdog winning, though the seed favorite coming ahead. We have one more part of the bracket to get to, everybody. We are going to go through the Midwest. Purdue has a play-in game opponent. We're just going to take Purdue on the money line. Do I think they lose the 16-1 upset 2 years in a row? I don't. I'll take Purdue on the money line. I'll fold it into some parlays. So Purdue advances. Next game we have is Utah State, TCU. That game is on Friday. It's a night game on Friday. One of the latest games of the day. TCU, Utah State. TCU's a 3.5 point favorite. Let's dive into the trends, everybody. TCU is a favorite so far this year, 18-6 straight up, 15-9 against the spread. The over-under has gone 12-12. TCU hasn't done a great job of late. They really haven't gotten into a rhythm. Kind of a hot and cold team of late. Now, Utah State, kind of an interesting opponent. Utah State is an underdog this year, 2-5 straight up, 2-5 against the spread. So Utah State as an underdog has not done well. The over's gone 5-2 when Utah State is an underdog. Now, when Utah State has been at neutral sites over the last few years, they've gone 9-7 straight up, but they failed to cover the spread in the last 3 games they've played at a neutral site. Meanwhile, TCU at neutral sites has actually gone 8-5 straight up, 6-7 against the spread. Just like looking at that, let's take a look at TCU. When TCU's been a favorite of, let's say, between 3 and 5 points. The spread for this one, thanks Jennifer, tip of the hat to you. The spread for this is 3.5. When the spread's been between 3 and 5 points, TCU has gone 4-2 straight up, 4-2 against the spread. The over has gone 4-2 as well. Let's take a look at Utah State. When Utah State has been an underdog between 3 and 5 points this year, they've lost the only game under those circumstances. When they've been an underdog by less than 5 points, they have gone 2-1. However, between 3 and let's say 10 points this year, Utah State, when they've been an underdog by at least 3 points or more, they're 0-5. Guys, that's where I'm betting this one. TCU pulls off the upset. TCU's the 9. Utah State's the 8. I'm taking TCU on the money line. I would also take TCU to cover the spread. I think TCU covers. I'll take TCU minus 1.5. So TCU on the money line, TCU minus 1.5. Next bet that we're putting out, as we have TCU advancing to play Purdue in the round of 32. Next game we're going to focus on is going to be Gonzaga and McNeese. Gonzaga and McNeese. Jennifer, so happy to hear that we've been helping you out. Great to know that we're doing that for you. Just love knowing that our advice is serving you well. Let's look at Gonzaga and McNeese, everybody. So Gonzaga, when they've been a favorite this year, 22-5 straight up, but only 13-14 against the spread. And they failed to cover the spread in 4 of their last 6 games. They do have a nice little winning streak, or did before the St. Mary's loss. But Gonzaga's done a bad job of covering the spread of late. How about McNeese? So when McNeese has been an underdog this year, they're 1-2 straight up, 2-1 against the spread. The under has gone 2-1 as well. At a neutral site, looking at McNeese State, they've gone 3-1 straight up and 3-1 against the spread in neutral site games over the last few years. Gonzaga, when they've been at a neutral site over the last few years, 12-6 straight up at 6-8 against the spread. By the way, Mark Few is actually really bad as a coach against the state. So I really like McNeese to cover the spread. I'll say that. Who do I like to win? That's a little dicier. Let's look at when Gonzaga's been a favorite of between, let's say, 5 and 8 points. When Gonzaga's been a favorite between 5 and 8 points this year, 0-2 straight up, 0-2 against the spread. When they've been a favorite between 5 and 10 points, 2-2 straight up, 1-3 against the spread. So Gonzaga, not good against the spread when it's been this size. McNeese, when they've been an underdog of between 5 and 10 points, 1-2 straight up, but 2-1 against the spread. Total set at 149. When Gonzaga's had a total between 145 and 150, they've gone 0-1. Interesting there. When McNeese had a total of between 145 and 150, they've gone 3-0 straight up, 1-2 against the spread. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you so much. Honestly, McNeese has my attention. I'm going to call for the upset. I'm going to say McNeese pulls off the upset in this one, not just on the line, but on the spread as well. I like McNeese to win this game. I'm going to take it. I'm going to say the shock happens. Upset City, 12-5 upset. McNeese pulls off the win. I'll obviously take McNeese to cover the spread. I'll take it at plus 8.5 or something. But I've got McNeese advancing. 12-5 upset. I think Gonzaga's a bit overrated. They've really struggled against the spread. I'll take McNeese to cover the spread. In my bracket, I'll take McNeese to win. I've got McNeese to win. And what really stood out to me is Gonzaga, when they've played a game around this spread, they've really struggled. And McNeese, when they've had a total at this number, they've won. I'll take the risk. I'll take McNeese. There you go, everybody. So another 12-5 upset. We have two of them, Grand Canyon University and McNeese. By the way, Chris, I love the take. I didn't go with it. I took Bama winning, but Charleston, I love them getting the upset on the spread at least. Let's look at Kansas and Stanford, everybody. Kansas and Stanford is the next one we're going to look at. This game tips off on Thursday at 9:55. Boy, does Kansas need as much time as they can get to have their players healthy. Kansas is a 7.5-point favorite. That doesn't feel right now. They've gone 20-5 straight up with that as a favorite. 11-14 though against the spread. Meanwhile, Samford, when they've been an underdog this year, Samford as an underdog has gone 2-3 straight up, 2-3 against the spread. The under's gone 5-0. So the under's been a very, very good play when Samford's been an underdog this year. Let's keep that in mind. Now, at neutral sites, Samford at neutral sites over the last 2 years, 3-1, straight up. Kansas at neutral sites over the last few years, 9-5, but the under's been a pretty good play. Okay. Kansas is a 7-point favorite. Let's look at when Kansas has been a favorite between 5 and 8 points this year. Kansas has played nine games when they've been a favorite between 5 and 8 points. They have gone 7-2 straight up, but only 3-6 against the spread, and the under's gone 5-4. How about Samford? When Samford has been an underdog between 5 and 10 points, hasn't actually happened yet this year. Underdog of 3 points, they lost the only game they played. Yeah, Samford hasn't been an underdog too often this year, just the one game against VCU. Now, to me, this is all about the injury report, so we won't know really just yet, but let's take a look at the game total set at 153. That seems awfully high to me. When Samford has had a total between 150 and 153, they've gone 3-1 straight up. Oh, I'm missing something here. 153.5? Oh, 155, sorry. Samford. When Samford's had a total between 150 and 155, they've gone 9-1 straight up. They've gone 7-3 against the spread, and the under's gone 7-3. The under continues to be a good play. When Kansas has had a total between 150 and 155, they won the one time it happened, but they failed to cover the spread. When it comes to a betting standpoint, I'm taking Samford to cover the spread. Samford at plus 10.5, I'll take that bet. When it comes to who's going to win the game, yikes. Part of me wants to take Samford. I'm not going to lie. Now, I also like the under in this game. Kansas, Samford. I'll take the under. I'll take under 156.5. It's at 153 right now. I'll take under 156.5. This is a tough one for me. Kansas, Samford, it's all about who's healthy. Is Hunter Dickinson going to play? That's all this is about. To me, if Kansas is healthy, they win. If Kansas isn't healthy, they lose. So I'm going to put Kansas advancing for now. But again, a major asterisk here. Asterisk with Kansas. No, I don't want them advancing. Forgive me. I think Kansas, it's all about whether they're healthy enough. So keep that in mind. If they're not healthy, don't play Kansas. I think Samford could easily pull off the upset. By the way, I accidentally put them in my Sweet 16. I'm not doing that just yet. We have 4 more games left in our bracket. We have gone through every game of the first round. 4 more to go, all in the Midwest. Once we cover that, we are wrapping up the show. Next game we have to talk about is South Carolina and Oregon. South Carolina, Oregon is a Thursday game tipping off at 4 o'clock on Thursday. Oregon right now is a 1.5-point underdog, just barely an underdog, but the money is favoring Oregon to win. 73% of the money is on Oregon to win. Let's take a look at when South Carolina has been a favorite this year. South Carolina has gone 14-2 as a favorite this year. Their only losses were to Georgia and to LSU. And interestingly enough, both of those games were at home. So actually, whether it's a neutral site or on the road, South Carolina has not lost as a favorite on the road or at a neutral site. Let's take a look at Oregon as an underdog this year. Oregon as an underdog has gone 5-5 straight up, 7-3 against the spread. The over's gone 7-3. Oregon at a neutral site over the last few years has gone 6-6 straight up, 6-6 against the spread. Let's take a look at when Oregon's been a slight underdog this year. When Oregon has been an underdog between, let's say, 1 and 3 points. Oregon is an underdog of 1 and 3. Between a 1 and 3 point spread. Oregon's gone 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread under that situation. Let's take a look at South Carolina. When South Carolina has barely been a favorite. Between 1 point and 3 points. 1 point and 4 points. South Carolina, when a slight favorite, only one game, they won it. When they've been a favorite by 5 points or less, 3-0. This is a tight one. Total set at 132.5. When the total's between 130 and 135. Oregon has gone 1-1 straight up, 0-2 against the spread. South Carolina, when they've had a total between 130 and 135, South Carolina has gone 6-0 straight up, 6-0 against the spread. Guys, I'm taking South Carolina on the money line. South Carolina Gamecocks on the money line. I have South Carolina advancing against Oregon. Not going to bet the total. Don't see any trends that favor that. But I will take South Carolina to advance. They will play the winner of Creighton-Akron. By the way, the Big East got totally screwed. The Big East should have absolutely had more than 3 teams make the tournament. That said, Creighton did make it, one of the 3. They went 22-7 straight up this year. 16-13 against the spread, 15-4 towards the over. Let's look at Akron as an underdog this year. Akron as an underdog. 2-7 straight up. 4-5 against the spread. The under's gone 6-3. By the way, Mason, the 2 places I find my stats are Outlier. DM me if you want a free subscription to Outlier for 7 days. Killersports.com is the other website I use. Killersports.com is fantastic. Guys, I'm not going to waste too much time on this one. I like Creighton to advance. Creighton on the money line. That's where I'm going to go with this one. Creighton on the money line to advance to the round of 32. I've got Creighton meeting South Carolina. So we're going to move on to the last one. Texas faces the winner of Virginia and Colorado State. I'm not going to touch that game yet. I want to know who's playing in it before I do. So I'm actually not going to build my bracket just yet. I want to see who Texas is going to be playing. But now Tennessee, St. Peter's. Tennessee, St. Peter's. That's the last game we have to look at in the Midwest bracket. When Tennessee's been a favorite this year, they've gone 22-5. But against the spread, just 14-13. The under's been a good play of late. But Tennessee, struggling against the spread so far this year. Let's take a look at how they look against the St. Peter's Peacocks. St. Peter's as an underdog this year has gone 7-8 straight up, 10-5 against the spread. The under's gone 9-6. Let's take a look at when St. Peter's has been at a neutral site over the last couple of seasons. 5-1 straight up, 5-1 against the spread. How about Tennessee on neutral sites over the last few years? They have gone 9-6 straight up, but 5-10 against the spread. They failed to cover the spread in 5 of their last 6 neutral site games. Under has been a good play as well. Right now, the spread for this game is set at 21.5. That's stupid. It's disrespectful. I'm absolutely taking St. Peter's to cover. But let's take a look at it. When the spread's been between 20 and 25 points in favor of Tennessee, they've gone 3-0 straight up, 2-1 against the spread. The over's gone 3-0 as well. When St. Peter's has had a stupid spread that's between 20 and 25 points. Hasn't happened this year. No surprise there. When they've been a 10-point underdog, they've gone 0-3. So we will take Tennessee to win. I will take Tennessee to win. However, I will take St. Peter's to cover. St. Peter's, I'll take it right now. Like I said, the spread for this game is right now set at 21.5. Disrespectful. I'll take it at 24.5 and be perfectly happy. I will also take Tennessee and St. Peter's. I like the under in this game right now. The total is set at 129.5. I want to make sure I like the total, so I'm just going to double check it. When Tennessee has had a total between 125 and let's say 130, they haven't actually played any games under those circumstances. Oh, yeah, they have. I just screwed up my typing. So between 125 and 130, no, they haven't played a game under that. So when it's been under 135, Tennessee's gone 2-1, 2-1 against the spread, and the over's gone 2-1. How about St. Peter's when they've had a total between 125 and 135? Let's narrow it to 130. St. Peter's has done a good job covering the spread. When the total's been under 130, St. Peter's has gone 7-1 straight up, 8-0 against the spread. The over's gone 5-3. I'll end up avoiding the total. I still like the under, but I'm not going to bet the total. But I do like St. Peter's to cover. So Tennessee on the money line, St. Peter's to cover. So we have now gone through the entire bracket. Let me tell you the teams that I like to advance, and then we're going to give out our bets one more time. So we're going to do a recap of every game that we are picking for the first round of the tournament, both who we have advancing in the bracket and who we have winning these games and the bets we make. So first, the bracket. I've got UConn advancing to play FAU, San Diego State advancing to play Auburn, BYU advancing to play Illinois, and Drake pulling off an upset to advance to play Iowa State. That is the East. In the West, I have North Carolina advancing to play Michigan State. I have Grand Canyon University pulling off an upset over Alabama. Grand Canyon advancing over St. Mary's to play Alabama. I have Alabama barely beating College of Charlestown to advance. I have New Mexico advancing to play Baylor. And I have Dayton facing Arizona in the round of 32. Now, in the South, I have Houston advancing to play Nebraska. Wisconsin just barely surviving James Madison to play Duke. Texas Tech meeting Kentucky in the round of 32. And then Marquette advancing. We don't know who they play yet because Florida is facing a play-in opponent. In the Midwest, we have Purdue advancing to play TCU. We have McNeese advancing, upsetting Gonzaga to face Kansas. If Kansas is healthy. If Kansas isn't healthy, I could see Samford getting the win. I like South Carolina to advance to play Creighton. And then Tennessee to advance against an opponent we don't know yet because Texas faces a play-in opponent. Those are the teams I have advancing past the first round of the tournament. Here are all the bets we have for the first round of the tournament, everybody. Here are all the bets we have for the first round of the tournament. We have UConn on the money line. Florida Atlantic against Northwestern over 141.5. We have Northwestern plus 5.5. San Diego State on the money line. UAB plus 10.5. Auburn on the money line. Yale Auburn under 145.5. BYU on the money line. Duquesne BYU under 146.5. Illinois on the money line. Morehead State Illinois over 144.5. Drake minus 1.5. Iowa State on the money line. UNC on the money line. Michigan State, Mississippi State under 134.5. Grand Canyon plus 7.5. Alabama on the money line. College of Charleston plus 12.5. New Mexico on the money line. Clemson plus 6.5. Baylor on the money line. Dayton plus 5.5. Arizona on the money line. Houston on the money line. Longwood plus 28.5. Nebraska on the money line. Nebraska -1.5. Wisconsin on the money line. James Madison +7.5. Wisconsin James Madison over 141.5. Duke on the money line. Duke Vermont under 138.5. Texas Tech on the money line. NC State +8.5. Kentucky on the money line. Marquette on the money line. Purdue on the money line. TCU on the money line and TCU -1.5. McNeese +8.5. Samford +10.5. Kansas Stanford under 156.5. South Carolina on the money line. Creighton on the money line, and Tennessee, Creighton on the money line, Tennessee on the money line, and St. Peter's +24.5. If you guys want every bet that I make every single day, just DM me on Instagram, Buttfumble Sports. DM me on Instagram. We give out all of our picks every day for free, including every one of these college basketball picks. They will all be up there, so if you missed any of them, don't worry, don't fret. Every bet I make every single day is available for free. Jennifer, thank you for supporting the show. For all of those that just watched the show, thank you so much. So grateful to have you guys with us. We will be updating some of these picks as we get injury news, as there's been line movement. We will update these picks, but as of Monday, March 18th, these are the picks that we've made so far. DM me on Instagram if you want every single one of them. I love giving out my picks, and I am so grateful that you guys join the show every single day to make sure that you guys never miss any of the action, any of our picks, any of the conversation. I am just so grateful for you guys. I hope you know it. If you have missed any part of the show, just DM me on Instagram to get every bet that I make every single day. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Hope you follow, hope you subscribe, and hope to see you again tomorrow because we've got more sports betting action to talk about every single day. Until then, have a great night. We'll talk again soon. Goodbye, everybody.